Thank you, everyone, and thank you for being patient with us as we change the set and invite some additional candidates up with us. We're very fortunate to have with us our mayoral candidates. We have Judy Eichner with us on my right and Brynn Bates. Thank you both for agreeing to run and commit to serve our city. Much like the earlier rounds, we will start with 2 minutes for an opening statement, and then we will proceed to 6 questions. You have 3 minutes each for those, followed by a closing statement, and you'll have 2 minutes allotted for that. Judy, you drew the A position, so you will start, and let's go ahead and offer that time for you. You have 2 minutes for an opening statement.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. And
Judy, let's turn on your...
Oh, am I not on? Oh, do I?
And then we'll reset your time. So.
Okay, now I'm...
There we go.
Okay, very good. Thank you. No, I'm Judy Eichner, and I'm sitting up here because I want to be your next mayor. And my husband and I have lived here for many, many years, and Kerrville has become home. We were an Air Force family for 22 years before that, and we'd always wanted to live in the hill country, and when he retired, we had that opportunity, and it was Kerrville. So it's been just a wonderful place to live. I taught here. I was a camp administrator here, and I have been a realtor for 18 years here. So I know the town, I know the people, and I wouldn't go anyplace else. So,
thank you. Brynn, you have 2 minutes for an opening statement.
Okay, I'm Brynn Bates, and I'm running for mayor as well. I'm going to glob on to what Joe said earlier on all the accolades, and thank you to the chamber and everybody else involved for putting on this function. I'm running for mayor. I've been here for 30 years. I started the River Trail. I finished the pavilion when the city wouldn't spend any money on it and abandoned it, and the development group that put it together ran out of money. Built half the Little League fields here in town, and a whole lot of other stuff that you can go to my website of mayorbates2022.com. I've got about 30 videos lined up, so you can find out a whole lot more about me and the things that I've done. I only belong to 2 things, my wife and my church. So I don't belong to Rotary, I don't go to any of those kind of functions and all that kind of stuff. So you're kind of sitting there going, oh my God, I didn't know this guy did all this stuff. That's just the tip of the iceberg. So you need to go to the website and find out the other community works and things that I've done. Sat on the youth ranch board for 20 years, started 2 charter schools. I've got a very rich history of community service. I decided with my 2 daughters moving back and with the state of affairs that's been going on that we needed to get somebody different, somebody new. You know, they say insanity is hiring the same people to do something and expecting them to change. And that's kind of what has gone on here in Kerrville. So if you're interested in the same, don't vote for me. If you're interested for change, well then do vote for me. I do have a history of being able to motivate people, have a history of getting things done, and I will listen to all of the citizens. I've got a separate phone you can call, you can complain, you can send me nasty emails. As a developer, none of that bothers you because that's your life. So anyway, I'd appreciate your vote.
Okay, since Judy got to start on that last round, the first question goes to you,
Okay.
Brynn, and you'll have 3 minutes for these next questions. The first question, what one trait makes you the better candidate in this race?
Well, I think what makes me the better candidate is my overall experience. I started as a stockbroker for Merrill Lynch when I was 24. I've been a certified financial planner, a registered investment advisor. I'm also a credentialed mediator. I've done deals with Ross Perot, Trammell Crow, Dolph Briscoe. I've done a lot of heady things. I've developed a series of cancer centers. I've built my office parks here in town, and so on and so forth. And what I hope to be able to do is bring all of that knowledge and experience to the position of mayor to guide us through what right now is going to be one of the most perilous times that this city has gone through. You know, inflation is running rampant. And if we do not get a handle over our spending, and not just our spending on the overall complex, the safety complex, which I'm sure we'll get a question on later. This graph right here shows you this red line is what inflation is right now. It's 8.3%. If it goes on for another 4 years, your $100 of purchasing power is going to be worth about $42, which means that all of these young policemen and firefighters and everything else are going to need raises. Earlier somebody talked about, I think it was Brenda, said that we lost them because better tools, better facilities, better offices. Now, we didn't lose them for that. We lost them because we don't pay them enough. They can go down the road to Bernie and make more money. And we're really going to start losing them when all of a sudden inflation is eating a hole in their pocket and we don't have enough money to give them a raise just to keep their standard of living going. So it's knowledge of all of this, and it's my 30 years of work experience and education that I think makes me the ideal candidate for this time. I think one of the other people talked about, I think it was Brenda, said, I'm the right candidate for now. Well, I believe in regards to being the mayor, I'm the right candidate for now. We got a lot of decisions to make. And guess what? One of the things I learned as a credential mediator, questions are your friend. Unfortunately, City Hall, if you watch any of the things that go on there, somebody asks a question and it's like, God, he's the Antichrist. Oh my God, how dare you ask a question, okay? I have news for you. When I'm mayor, I'm going to be asking a lot of questions. Now, some of them I'll already know the answer. And I'm asking the city staff to find out if they know the answer. And some of them I won't know the answer because I'll actually be soliciting information. But like I said, we're in a time now that we cannot stay with the status quo. Because if we do, we're going broke.
Thank you. Judy, same question. What one trait makes you the better candidate in this race?
Just one.
You have 3 minutes and you're welcome to use it as you please.
Oh, golly. Well, I think I have several traits that make me a better candidate. A couple of things that I think stand out. One, I have 4 years' experience on city council. And so that alone is worth a lot. I know how the city ticks. I also respect our city staff. We have a tremendous, professional, competent city staff. And I know that my job is not to get in the weeds with them. My job is to work with them, but not to get in their way. Part of the job of a mayor is to look to the future. And we need to be a visionary, but at the same time, we need to be able to take care of some nuts and bolts. And I think that I'm able to do that. I get along well with people, and I enjoy people, and I think that I am a positive person. I'm not a person that spends all my time negative, going round and round in circles on things that aren't really, really important. And I feel that I have a positive outlook, and I think that's important if you're the mayor of a city. I think that it's important to lead a city staff, and I think that that is one of my traits. I also feel that one of my traits is I only have one agenda, and I've only had one agenda from the very first day that I took office, and that is what's best for Kerrville.
Thank you. I got some good advice in the break, and so we are going to actually go back and forth, so you get the opportunity to answer first.
Oh, okay.
And same, we'll alternate back and forth. The second question, Judy, is what are the top 2 issues facing Kerrville, and how can we best move our community forward to overcome these challenges?
That was actually one of the questions that the chamber had given us earlier. And so I went to the public, I went to the people, and asked that question. I knew what my answers were, but I went to the public. The first answer the answer that came back consistently as number 1 was housing. That we have got to have housing. And the second answer that we got was managing our growth. And we hear this over and over and over, and it is very important. We have a wonderful little town. We are going to grow. There's no two ways about that. Are we going to be what Austin is? No. But we are going to grow, and we're going to have our own issues as we do that. So housing is a big issue. We're working on that right now. Lennar is putting in roads as we speak. A lot of people didn't like the fact that we brought in a large developer, but for the prices that we are dealing with today, we had to bring in a large developer. Our own builders here, they're wonderful, but they don't have the capacity to do that. So those would be the two main things. We're going to deal with both of those consistently. They're not going to go away, and we're going to deal with those every time we end up in a council session. They're going to be there.
Thank you. Brent, same question. What are the top two issues facing our city, and how can we best move our community forward to overcome these challenges?
To me, the two issues are inflation and water. Now, inflation will trickle down into a whole bunch of different areas, and we can talk about, fiscal responsibility, being good stewards of the money that we got. We need to kind of reassess. In the business world, Joe talked about good times, better times, and those times that made you a believer, okay? Because you're on your knees praying that you're going to make it. Unfortunately, cities never go through that cycle. Cities always have OPM, other people's money, and they just kind of continue to lumber along, okay? Well, periods of inflation will even prune the city. And we can either do it tactically, intelligently, and making sure that we have those core services that we all want. Yes, we want safety, yes, we want water and sewer, yes, we want streets, and so on and so forth. But the city has managed, in my opinion, to get into a lot of things that are not really their core function. And frankly, they're not really even good at it, okay? And why we abandon those core functions and don't take care of those things, people are telling me they're more afraid of the streets and the utilities in town than they are the lack of an office for the administration of policemen and firefighters, okay? So that's that end of it. The other end of it is water, because guess what? We're not going to be able to grow if we don't have water. Most of y'all don't realize we're a Class A fire-rated community. We don't have enough water in the fire hydrant to be a Class A water community. I know that because I did one of the only 2 actual fire flow tests in the city of Kerrville in the last 10 years. Every other test is done in a calculation. The calculation was 2,169 gallons per minute. My actual test was like 1,261. By the way, if you're below 1,500, you can't be a Class A fire community. So, water is everything. Do we want to send firefighters into a fire and there's no water in the hydrant? Frankly, I think we run the risk of doing that. But think of the water that's needed for growth. And we're not really doing a whole lot to solve those problems of water. Most of the problems that we've had for 30 years. Joe even mentioned it. Faces have changed, but the problems have stayed the same. If I get to be mayor, I got news for you. We'll eliminate some of those problems. We'll go in, we'll do the things necessary, we'll make the hard decisions, we'll make the unpopular decisions to protect our citizens and our community.
Okay, Brent, so give you a brief break and then you'll lead off on this third question.
Okay.
Do you support tax increases if needed to support the continuation of city services? And if so, which city services would you support those increases for?
Okay, I don't support tax increases. I think we're overtaxed as it is. What I support is going in and getting your fiscal house in order and making sure that you're paying for those core functions. Everybody knows we have a housing problem, but what most people don't understand, because they don't develop anything, is you gotta have water, you gotta have sewer, you gotta have land that's flat enough to build on. This is the Texas Hill Country. There's a lot of people invested in properties all throughout the Hill Country. They're never going to be able to develop, and some of them have the misguided idea of calling me and trying to sell them to me. And I say, are you kidding? I'm not buying that. There's no water, there's no sewer, and you can't get the place flat. So the marketplace takes care of all that. Do you know Houston doesn't have any zoning? There's no zoning ordinances in Houston. There's no development services that comes in and says, oh, this street now has become this. I got people that I'm fixing to sell property out on the Loop Road because they're leaving because we came in with a zoning map and basically took a whole swath of where they actually are now. And they wanted to buy a piece of land and put their own business right down the street from where they are, but they can't because basically we have taken property through zoning and through the 2020 plan. And so from my viewpoint, the government has a very limited purpose. We're so far out over our skis, I don't know that we've left that a long time ago. Horses out of the barn.
Judy, same question to you. Do you support city services if needed to support the continuation, do you support tax increases to support the continuation of city services? And if so, which city services would you support those for?
The answer would be yes, and safety and infrastructure would be at the top of the list.
Okay. And so you're prepared for the next question you get to lead off on. This is a submitted question. What other involvement have you had with city on boards and or other committees prior to running for office?
I have had a lot, extensive. I was on the Habitat Board for 12 years, still on the development committee for that group. I've served on the Deeded Center Board. I'm presently on the Doyle Community Board, and it's been just so exciting working on that board and bringing that neighborhood up to par. And we've still got a ways to go, but we're doing great things over there. I'm a member of Rotary, I've served on that board. I'm a member of the Kerrville Board of Realtors, have served on that board. Oh golly, that's all that I'm thinking of right now, but I've had a lot of experience.
Okay, thank you. Brynn, same question. What other involvement have you had with this on the city, on boards, and other committees prior to running for office?
I was head of the Building Board of Adjustments and Appeals back in fact, I got a little plaque, accommodation, and all that sort of stuff back in the 2000. In fact, you know what? It was in the mid-2000s because I had an appeal on a chief building official ruling, and we couldn't appeal to my board, so it went to city council. And so that's how I can remember the date. In fact, interestingly enough, they fired the city manager that night at that city council meeting. The chief building official quit that night, and then 2 weeks later, I kind of convinced the fire marshal to leave town as well. Anyway, and you know, it's unfortunate because I went to go see Paul Hoffman, who was a fellow Aggie, on day 35 of trying to get a 5-day permit, and told him it was not going to end well for him. And so day 92, when we actually got to have the meeting before city council, that was the result. So, been on the Hill Country Youth Ranch board for 20 years, started 2 charter schools for them, Little League board, soccer board, you know, kind of like Judy, I'm boarded up. You know, they all, you know, if you're willing to help out, you're on the board. In fact, I was president of the Little League after I'd lived in town 1 year, and they took a 1-page ad out, let's overthrow the good old boys. I didn't know I was a good old boy. I didn't even know everybody in town. So I took the guys that wrote that thing, and I did the ad, and I said, you know, what's your problem? And they got to talk about this guy and this guy. Then soon they realized I didn't know any of these people. I identified them by the predominant cap that they wore or the vehicle they drove, okay? Because I'm new to town and there's 3,000 people that figured out my name and I don't remember anybody's name, and I'm challenged with names anyway. So yeah, I've been boarded up, to say the least.
Okay, next question. Question number 5 comes back to you first.
Okay.
Do you support legislation or policies that make it easier for new businesses to open and existing businesses to expand in Kerrville? And if so, what might those look like?
Well, first you have to understand something. A city policy is not binding. The city has a policy to look at your set of plans and give you comments in 10 days. I've had plans that it's been 170 days and they haven't commented on them. I have plans that they've lost 3 and 4 times. So I'm not a real fan of policies. I'm a fan of ordinances because it'd be nice if they had by ordinance to get back to you in 10 days, because then they could lose their job if they kept doing that. But right now, all the policies they have are not being met and nobody really cares. So I'm not really a fan of policies. In regards to legislation for housing, wasn't that what the question
For
was?
helping businesses open or
Helping
expand.
businesses. Well, I think what you can do to help businesses is make a friendly business environment, okay? And in fact, if I become mayor, one of the things that I'm going to do is add a position within City Hall called an ombudsman. And what an ombudsman does is, an ombudsman comes in and interacts between the public and City Hall, okay? Because in case you haven't noticed, at least in my opinion, and this is from watching council meetings and everything else, there's a certain adversarial relationship there. Especially when you come in and start asking questions. And oh, by the way, could you show me in the code where you have the authority to do what you just said you're going to do? I'm still waiting, 180 days for quotations of authority for things that they're wanting me to do, okay? We really need to kind of work on that. And so I think legislation's not you can't legislate morality, you can't legislate good nature, you can't legislate customer service and all those kinds of things. And what I hear from the development community, because see, you all talk to the people that you talk to. I get calls from big developers that go, oh my God, how do you stand that place? We were gonna come in and do this project, we're leaving, we're pulling out. We're not gonna put up with that, okay? And so we need to make it where, yes, we wanna grow, but no, Judy's right. It's got to be controlled growth. We don't just want to run willy-nilly. But the problem is this: the marketplace is the best arbiter of how growth happens. When somebody puts their money on the line and is willing to lose it all, you have to give them their due, okay? City staff may be trained in planning a city. There's two things about a city that makes it impossible to plan: an interstate and a river. We got both of them within a mile. All of this planning is basically worthless because the two largest impediments to any city planning, we've got them both, and they're within a mile of each other. I'll stop since I saw you looking at your clock.
Thank you. You're
I figured you were gonna hit
maximizing
that
your
buzzer real
time.
quick.
Judy, same question. Do you support legislation or policies that make it easier for new businesses to open in Kerrville or expand? And if so, what might that look like?
I would support that. And I think it goes along with our downtown right now. It goes along with many places in our town. We do have new businesses coming in, and we need to be open to them. We also need to support those that are already here. It's just, they're our bread and butter. And they've taken a chance on Kerrville, and so we do need to support them. Exactly what all of that legislation would look like, I would have to see that before I could really say yes. And this isn't good, but this is good. But overall, yes, I would support that for new businesses and for our existing businesses. It's vitally important. They need to be taken care of, and that's part of the city's job.
Okay, so last question before our closing comments. Again, this is the submitted question that you may recognize. And we'll start with you, and then Brent, you'll be able to close us up on this. If the public safety facility is justified by our community's need, why has a PAC been formed? And then we'd also like to know your view on that facility.
The PAC has been formed, it's been said before, it's communication and information. That's what their job is. I probably know everybody on that committee. I'm not going to share names, I don't think that's important, but what they're doing is important, and they've got to get the word out. And there are too many people who will just simply say, I won't vote for it, or I will vote for it without information. And so the PAC is there to submit information, give information, and answer questions. So they're vitally important. I believe in the safety building. It needs to be done. Anybody that's been in there, you understand the situation, the things that they deal with. Our municipal court is not a safe place. Our fire administration, they're sitting in a building, we're paying $42,000 in rent a year there. And our IT needs to be a part of this. They support the police department more than probably the city. So I absolutely believe and will vote for a new safety building.
Thank you. Brent, to close us out, same question. If the public safety facility is justified by our community's need, why has a PAC been formed? We've also had requests for names if you know them. And what is your view on that facility?
All right, kind of like Judy, I've been here long enough, I'm sure I know them, but I don't know who's on the list. And to a certain degree, that's irrelevant. What I find interesting is the campaign is implying that without this building, Kerrville's unsafe. And that's a premise that I just don't buy into. I've built hundreds of thousands of square feet of office building, okay? I can tell you that that building that they need, in my opinion, can be built for about $15 to $20 million. I don't know where the other $26 million is going, all right? Now, with that said, I also, do not believe that they've done a good job of selling it. If you went to the banker, and I did a video, you go to my website, mayorbates2022.com. I did a video on this. I'm gonna have to revise it because now they're kind of bringing out information slow but sure. Nobody knows where it's gonna be, nobody knows what it's gonna be, nobody knows what it's gonna contain, where's it gonna be. Go to a banker and try and get $46 million, a blank check, and tell them, I can't tell you where it is, I can't tell you what we're gonna do, I can't tell you what it's gonna look like, and I can't tell you what the floor plan is, but give me $46 million, I'm gonna build it because we'll be safer because of it. And the banker ain't gonna give you any money. Okay, so now they rolled out, so now we know the location. The location is over there by the jail, all right? And then I think they've rolled out some other information. The reality is a large percentage of this has got to be equipment, computers, all kinds of stuff. You realize that night vision goggles for the police cost 30 to 50 grand. So are we buying 50 of those and that's $2.5 million? I don't know. I don't know. Do you know what all's going actually in it?
I have a good idea.
Okay, she has a good idea, but she doesn't know. And so what my point is this, is that if you're gonna sell something to the public, you need to get your act together, okay? Because in the business world, they'll laugh you right out of the room if you show up trying to promote this deal. Now, do we need a building? I don't know why we've left them in that bus thing and the other stuff, okay? I'm not against a building, I'm not saying I'm not gonna vote for it. I can say this, if you vote for it, you better vote for me for mayor because you probably want one of the largest commercial developers in town to watch your $46 million. And don't be surprised if I manage to send some of it back, okay? If you're against it, you need to vote for me anyway because we gotta figure out what they really need. And so I'm worried about the guy that's driving in the car. I'm worried about the kid that's fighting the fire, okay? Yeah, offices, I've built a ton of offices. Offices are nice. Offices don't make anybody safe, okay? I have a trial April 18th at municipal court. I don't feel unsafe going and having my trial. I've been written a ticket for permanently installing a light fixture with an extension cord. Think about that, permanently installing a light fixture with an extension cord. So anyway, yeah, we need something. I don't know what that is, and I don't know what they're doing.
Thank you. So we now are moving on to closing comments. Brent, you will have the opportunity to make your closing statement first, and we have 2 minutes each for these.
2 minutes, okay, hold on a second here. I will time myself so you don't have to hit that buzzer. Okay, again, I'm Brynn Bates, and I'm running for mayor. And like I said, a lot of y'all, show of hands, how many of y'all even know me? Okay, so look at that. A lot of people don't know who I am, all right? And so, one of the reasons that I'm using a lot of stuff with my website and all that, you can go on there, I'll tell you about, where I came from, my education, my work experience, the whole 9 yards. But the funny thing is if you go and watch those videos, you'll find out you can't go anywhere about a half mile and not find something that I haven't touched. That's really great. Like the Riverwalk and the pavilion and the Little League fields and the soccer fields and the so on and so forth. I'm well known by girls in the ages of 30 to 25 because my 2 daughters are in that age and I coached everything under the sun. The only person that beat me was Mark Pruzlowski because he had 5 kids, so he coached 5 kids. And then there was a guy named Ken Wade that had 5 daughters, and I said, man, you're the man. Had that much estrogen in the house, surely your dog's got to be a male dog. He says, no, it's a girl dog. I said, man, you know, you are the man. But anyway, I've been here forever, you know, and been involved in all kinds of stuff. But there again, my deal was I raised my kids, I worked hard, I outworked everybody. I moved here unemployed, okay? No job, didn't know anybody, and just got busy. I go to church in Fredericksburg. My dad was pastor of Fredericksburg Bible Church. I was an elder on there. So I didn't even go to church in this town. That's why everybody thought I was a heathen, because nobody saw me at any church functions in Kerrville, all right? We're in perilous times. Inflation is real. I'm the only person on this stage that's managed money during a time of inflation as a stockbroker for Merrill Lynch. I'm the only one that brought up the fact that inflation is our biggest problem, and it is our biggest problem. And the real problem is this: we didn't cause it because it's a monetary policy and it's from Joe Biden printing that money, and he's not going to stop.
Okay, Judy, close us out. You have 2 minutes for a closing statement.
Thank you. I want to thank Brad. I want to thank the chamber. The relationship of the chamber with the city is a good one, and we appreciate everything that they do in our community. They're important and doing lots of good things. I want to thank you, Carolina, for doing this today. We appreciate you and your newspaper and what you do. And I want to thank all of you for being here. We appreciate it. Your interest and the fact that you care is very, very important. And that thank you also goes to all of those that will be watching us on YouTube. So we appreciate it. In my book, Kerrville needs a mayor who's a leader, who accepts responsibility, who's positive, looks to the future, but at the same time is willing to make decisions, can make decisions of what's going on right now. A mayor needs to be someone that can rally people together and get things done. And I think that I have the ability to do that. I also think that we need a mayor who has one and only one agenda. Nothing hidden, one and only one agenda. And that's all I have. So it would be my honor and my pleasure to serve as your mayor, and I am asking for your vote to do just that. Thank you.
Thank you both, and thank you to the candidates who shared time with us earlier. We are so appreciative of the Chamber, Brad. Thank you, and your Governmental Affairs Committee for making this a priority. Thank you, Valerie, who managed our time, and Pilar, who handles most of the events for the Chamber. We also have a lot of appreciation for Schreiner University. Brandon, I see you back there hosting us today. And other media who's in the room. We've got Tammy Prout with the Community Journal, and we have Lewis with the Kerr County Lead. And I think all of our newspapers and media are committed to helping keep you informed. So watch those publications in the coming days. I know that all of us will be running candidate profiles and more answers to come. A few things before you leave. The League of Women Voters, they traditionally put together some pretty good voters guides. They have left a batch of them for us out front, so you can pick up one of those as you leave. As a reminder, this is recorded and will be posted on the Chamber's YouTube channel, so check that out if you want to follow up. And then once again, make sure you vote. Mark your calendars for April 25th. That's when early voting starts. And then May 7th, on that Saturday, is Election Day. So please make sure to use this good information that our candidates have helped us get and go put it to use. And thank you all for coming and caring to be informed. We appreciate that. Take care and have a good night.